probably have the news on scene for the entire afternoon. Hope you all enjoying the weather. Anyway, if you would all please. Oh, can I go up a little bit? Let me see if I go. How's this? A little better? Okay. Instead of me listening to it, I'll let you listen to it. Anyway, again, we're going to be celebrating 75 years of the passing of Pearl Harbor. And it's my distinct pleasure to be the musical person here today. First of all, we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all rise, please, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce to you a storyteller, and her name is Judy Shulry. She's Life Story Writers Group. She's with the Life Story Writers Group, and they meet at Luxbury Gardens every Monday. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, Judy Shulry.
It's not on. Not on. No.
Check, check, check.
Check. I was born in 1935, the exact middle of the Depression. However, my father was always employed. Can't hear. Can't hear.
Turn it up. Just speak louder, Judy.
Speak slowly and articulate clearly.
Don't realize.
I was born in 1935, the middle of the Great Depression. However, my father was always employed, and my life in Grand Rapids, Michigan had its pleasures, especially on Sunday. Breakfast was hot cereal. I got to wear my best dress and my Buster Brown shoes. And the Sunday of this story, like everyone, I went to Sunday school and church. I liked Sunday school. Every week we got a 4-page handout, a colored illustration on the front, a story on the inside, which our teacher read to us, and the back page, which we colored. The last was never very satisfactory because none of the crayons had any points. But we talked and laughed and sang songs. The church was more problematic. I remember that hour is very long, but back at home, Sunday dinner was the finest meal of the week. And after my dad finished his coffee and my mother stood to clear the table, my dad and I would move into the living room. The most ornate and important piece of furniture there was the radio. It stood on spindle legs connected by crossbars. If I sat on the floor, the speakers were right in front of my ears. However, my father's armchair stood beside the radio facing the fireplace. My memory of his chair is vague. As if my father was sitting in the chair, I was sitting on his lap. On Saturday afternoons, we listened to the Metropolitan Opera broadcast, and he explained the story of the opera. On Sundays, it was the New York Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra coming to you from Carnegie Hall in New York City. Then my dad made up adventure stories to accompany the music. I adored my dad, and he indulged me considerably. So that Sunday, I was listening to my dad tell the story and listening to some music in perfect happiness when all at once a voice broke in. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important message from the President of the United States. Then Franklin Delano Roosevelt announced, today Pearl Harbor was attacked by Japanese warplanes. Japan declared war on us after the attack. Many American lives were lost in this sneak attack. Our ships sank in the harbor, and our planes were destroyed on the airfield. This is the day that will live in infamy. I was listening as hard as I could, but I could make no sense of it. However, I felt the shock and tension in my father's body. He stood up, depositing me abruptly on my feet. "Florence," he called, "did you hear that? Where is Pearl Harbor?" And he rushed to get the World Atlas that rested on a shelf under the end table. But the atlas didn't show Pearl Harbor. He immediately changed the dial to WGN, the Chicago news station. Pearl Harbor, it turned out, was the name of a naval base in Honolulu, Hawaii. "That's terrible. Japan attacked us. I'm going to go down and enlist tomorrow," my father announced. "Now, George," my mother intoned, "I don't think you should do that. You're almost beyond draft age, and you're needed at home." I, too, was against the idea, but I was quiet. This was clearly a grown-up conversation. Then the phone began ringing. As my father's large family began calling to discuss the terrible news. Chaos and anxiety. This is my earliest memory of the meaning of war. My father didn't serve. He was 4F, but my mother's sister became one of the first Lady Marines and spent the war in San Diego. 2 of my uncles joined the Navy. One served stateside, but the other served on an oil tanker that was torpedoed in the Indian Ocean. He spent 14 days on a life raft before being rescued, having lost more than a third of his weight. He seldom talked about the experience. My cousin Jack dropped out of college and joined the Coast Guard, and his brother Tom did the same thing a year later. In the 4 years that followed, a great many things changed. Gas rationing meant that we no longer had trips to the country. Food rationing meant that my dad dug up part of the backyard and my mom planted a victory garden. I helped collect scrap metal, including the tin foil from my dad's cigarette packages. I soaked the paper backing off and created a multi-layered ball which every 3 months was added to the scrap drive. At school each week I bought a dime war bond stamp, and I listened to the news of the war daily and watched the news clips of the fighting at the neighborhood theater Saturday matinee. I learned a little about loss and sorrow when the small gold-fringed banner with a blue star in its middle that hung in the window at the end of our block was switched to one with a gold star in the center. Our neighbor's son was killed in action. I missed my aunt, my uncles, my cousins, but I remember this time because there was so much I could not understand. In Sunday school, I had learned that God loves each of us. Nothing in my 6 years of life had ever contradicted that idea. But after that Sunday, suddenly there were people whom we hated so much that we wanted them dead. The Japs, especially Tojo, and the Nazis, especially Hitler. And I saw behavior that would have been unthinkable a few months before. Our neighbors one house away were the Mailings. Mr. Mailing owned his own butcher shop and spoke with a thick German accent. His son Frankie was a year younger than I, but we walked to school together occasionally. After that Sunday, some of the older neighborhood boys began calling him names and even tossing stones at him. I knew bullying was wrong, and I told on them. But neither my parents nor any of the other neighbors did anything. Mrs. Mailing solved the problem. She walked Frankie to school, and he played indoors or in his fenced backyard throughout the war years. During those 4 years, I went from being a beginning reader to being a voracious one. By the end, I was also working hard to evade my mother's censorship of what I read. Thus, I came to see the photographs of a liberated concentration camp in Life magazine. The piles of the dead, the haunting hollow-eyed skeletal survivors. I can still see them in my mind's eye. As an adult, I understand that Great Britain and the United States, the Allies, tried for years to avoid war through negotiations and sanctions. The Axis powers, Germany, Japan, and Italy, actually were the aggressors. So in that sense, World War II was a necessary war. During those 6 years of war, the Axis bombed civilian populations in England and conducted the unimaginable Holocaust in Europe. In the Far East, they made the names of Nanjing, Shanghai, and Bataan synonymous with merciless cruelty. Towards the end of the war, the Allies bombed the civilians of Dresden and Hamburg so intensely that firestorms resulted. Then the United States firebombed Tokyo, killing almost as many civilians as died when a nuclear weapon was used for the second time and ended the war. At that time, I could not have said that infamy was a terrible or evil act. Today I realize that even in a just war, no one is guiltless by the end. The conduct of war seems to lead naturally to a great deal of infamy and to enduring animosity.
Fantastic, Katie. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to have you get up one more time. My gosh. Let's see what I can do here. I'd like to sing a rendition of the national anthem. And as cold as it is out here, we're going to be interesting to hear this voice go up high. So, bear with me as we sing the national anthem. Please help me. Rise.
All the earth and the sea
rank, sir?
He was a general.
He was a general?
In his own mind, he was.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to introduce Mr. Eli Ross to you.
It's quite cold out here, and I'm not going to keep you longer than 40 or 5 minutes or so don't worry about that. I served during the Korean War, and it was called the coldest winter, and it's 40 degrees below zero, and here I am shivering, and I survived it when I was 21. But being older now, it's more uncomfortable, I must confess that. So, I don't know if you have any questions. If you do, keep them to yourself, please. Anything I should tell them about that? Well, my service, of course, was a little after World War II, but I certainly remember that period of time. I was raised in New York City, and I remember I was part of the junior airway wardens who rode on a bicycle, and we practiced delivering messages and doing whatever we could to contribute to what we were told to do. So that's my story there, and there's never been a time of peace. And in the Bible in Isaiah, it's written that I create all things, war and peace. So when we wonder why do we go through this boot camp down here, that's a matter that God has ascertained before. So we're all going to be survivors in the long run, and you all be blessed, as we say in South Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all that served, and it is serving right down in the foreign forces. We surely appreciate you. Again, I'm going to sing a song. I don't think you have to stand for this one. This is called God Bless America, but if you want to sing it, I'm sure you can. I always like music to come from it. It just makes it that much better, especially when it's Kate Smith, the music. This was sung by Kate Smith many years ago. Check it. Here we go. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. Good one, play that. Now, it gives me great pleasure to give you a man that works his tail off to put this together. He was, I'm his neighbor. I was singing, as you can tell, I can sing a little bit. But I was next to him, and he came through a gate, and he listened to me for a few minutes. Didn't say anything to me, passed me up, and went away. And came back, stopped in, and said, you know, I do a Pearl Harbor thing. And I'd sure like to have you sing, if you would. And I said, gosh, be my honor. So, hey, I'm here. Here he is, Ed Martin.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming today. I got a great cast this time around. There was a lot of research, but God blessed me to be able to cherish the people that are with me. I have a lot of old stories I wanted to say, but I think this gentleman's taking the show away from me this time. So, one thing I was thinking about last night, it's usually really warm in this area, the building this time of the morning. But today, as we can see, we're all bundled up and we're kind of cold. But I was wondering how I could be able to relate this to the fallen ones that passed away. And 1,100 that are cold in Arizona right now are looking at us. Unfortunately, they can't bundle up, but they're tied together like we are right now. World War II started. We were a peaceful country before it happened. When the call to arms came, 16 million rose. Today, we lose about 1,500 a day. As I hear in Pearl Harbor, they're having a reunion there. 300 survivors are all left. This gentleman over here, when I met him the other day, he was telling his wife's father was in Pearl Harbor. And I thought that was amazing because they were both, my father and his father, her father, were both in the Navy. And they were both in the battle. Unfortunately, when they saw my dad's ship there, it was a tender, which is a repair vessel. And since it didn't have any weapons on it, they went to Arizona instead. But little did he know, when the Japanese made that attack, it was actually a failed attack. Because they didn't destroy the things that made us go back to Japan. That vessel that my father was on, it was a repair vessel. All of its crew was all intact, and we were able to patch up all the battleships to go all the way back to Tokyo. So they made a big mistake just with that small ship, let alone the 16 million Americans that rose to protect our country. So today we thank all those that have done their job to help us, and all the ones that are doing it today and before, and the respect that you're giving them right now. We're very blessed to have Americans with that much love for their country. I want to make this quick because we got a 9:30 dead end right here, and this is the price that they have to pay for our freedom. So may we have a grace of silence for a minute. I think they've appreciated enough there. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. I remember the 50th, my dad wanted to go, I wanted him to go to Pearl Harbor with me, and he didn't want to go. He died a few years later. The 60th, I started getting into the Pearl Harbor thing. And when 9/11 happened, I was more into it than ever. And I started looking for things in the house, and I found a little museum here. And as they say, you find the Foot Locker, well, there it is. And so I made a pledge in my life to say the story, for people to remember what these gentlemen had done and what they're doing now. We have to thank them so much because they paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And so today is probably going to be my final Pearl Harbor thing. I don't know how I could outdo it. I don't know if I could go for 100 because I don't know if we're going to be around. Possibly the 80th. I'm going to be going to Mount Diablo later this afternoon, and they're going to have the 75th there, and I'll find out where my road goes to from there. But I just want to thank you so much for coming. It makes me very happy for the effort I put into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. We appreciate that. And like you said, he's got a little memorial set up here at the front. If you'd like to come by and review it, please do so. What can I say? You did a fantastic job. We want to see you around next year, too. Even though I'm from Stockton, I live over here in Cliffside now. And I love this place. I love it. I don't know why I've not been here beforehand. But I'm here now. Hang on, folks. You'll be hearing a lot of the Karaoke King. Talk to you later. Thank you very much again.